Jeremy, that is exactly it. It's so easy to be busy. It's so easy to just like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, da, da, da. And at the end of the day, have you moved your life? Have you moved the world forward? Have you done something where someone else in the world is like, wow, the world's better because of what you did today?
Welcome back to Neuroconvergent Leadership, where we talk about effective leadership and communication, especially in the STEM workplace. I'm Jeremy Doran, and I love to help great engineers become great leaders. Today we have with us Stephen Puri, and his story is fascinating. Can't wait for you all to hear it. Stephen, welcome.
It is great to be here. I hope we can be fascinating today. You've raised the bar.
Yeah, it's what I like to do. I like to challenge you. Where are we talking to you from?
I am actually in Austin, Texas today, although this is where I was a couple of days ago, and I met my wife in Manhattan, so I love it. But I'm in Austin today.
Great. I love Austin. And can you tell everybody a little bit about what it is that you do?
Sure. I help people who want to do something with their lives focus, block distractions, get into a flow state. We have a website that you run in the background while you work and blocks Facebook and helps you with picking up your phone and helps you get into a flow state.
I like that. So who are people who tend to need help with that, other than everyone? Obviously, everyone does.
I can tell you the biggest cohorts we have, because you and I have chatted before. So the three biggest cohorts, and it's not going to be shocking, are engineers, designers, and writers or bloggers, also copywriters, because they all have knowledge work to do. A lot of people work remote, and we help people just finish their days earlier, get more done, because we keep them from getting distracted. It's really simple, and it's I think it's probably the coolest thing I've done in my life, and I've done some fun stuff.
So what led you to this?
To answer the question, I will give you a short, those listening at home, playing, in their cars, I'll give you a short lead into this so that the answer makes sense, which is when I was little, my parents were both engineers at IBM. Mom was software, dad was hardware. I learned how to code because, your mom's a great ice skater. You probably learned how to ice skate when you're little. And so I was a little code monkey. And I fell into film because I was at USC, which is a great cinema TV school. And I was around in LA when film went digital. Computers suddenly could process enough data to do films, right? So suddenly there I was in LA producing digital effects for films. Worked on about 14 films, including produced the digital effects for Independence Day, which we won the Academy Award for the visual effects on that, which is super cool. Nice. And then decided I want to be a studio executive. I was like, okay, I want to leave behind some of the engineering kind of stuff and see how being a studio executive would work and helping to make films. I worked on that for about 10 years, rose up to be, as you know, an executive vice president for Kurtzman Orsi at DreamWorks, vice president at Fox, running like the Die Hard and the Wolverine franchises and things like that. And the answer to your question now, that people understand, like it's sort of an interesting or odd trajectory of like engineer who went into creative who comes back into engineering, is I had a moment on Die Hard 5 where I was like, this really doesn't affect the world in any way. Like there is no great idea behind this. This is not high art. And it's called show business, not show art. And I decided to get back into doing something where I thought I could actually help people. I have a very strong thesis that we all have something great inside us. And the question of this lifetime is, are you going to get it out or not? And I'm really passionate about this because, I'm going to have a son this year. And I've thought a lot about what am I putting into the world that's going to make his world better? And there are enough companies whose business model is steal your life. And I wanted to be one of the people saying, hey, if you want to do something with your life, if you want to get out that great American novel you have inside, or you have a great app to build, or you have some beautiful piece of art to create, or some company to create, here's a tool to defend you against the Facebooks and the Instas and the WhatsApps and the TikToks and the Snaps, all these companies that just like, hey man, if you end up 80 years old scrolling and double tapping on the sofa and done nothing in your life, that's great for us because we will have made money off you for 80 years. And that makes me sick. I think this generation, my kids' generation, will look at our use of social media the way I look at my dad's generation and their use of tobacco. I was like, oh, how could you do that? It's like, y'all have lung cancer and you're dying of emphysema. And they're like, well, if you'd been around in the 60s or 70s, whatever, it was cool and the movie stars were smoking. Yeah? And we're like, oh, I can't even imagine smoking cigarettes. I'm hoping that's the way the world moves, and we move to like doing something cool or being slaves to the AI bots.
I like it. I like your grand vision. Focus is tough on everyone.
Yeah.
Even just having alerts on your email, it just stops people from what they're in the middle of.
It's all beautifully
but you're
designed for that.
Yeah, but you're very focused on the social media things. Is that correct?
Very focused on the people who say, I want to go do something with my life, or the people who say, hey, I have 8 hours of work. Can I do it in 5? Then we give them a tool to accelerate that. So I'll tell you some things that I saw. Like a lot of why I started this is I happen to be lucky to have worked around like first dollar gross writers, directors, people who are like at the top of their game. And then now around 10x engineers, amazing designers. And there is some commonality about the people who are at the top of the field, how they get their brain into that place of, I'm going to go do the thing you're going to know me for, And if I may talk about flow states, you want to talk about that for a moment, sort of set that table? I think it's sort of foundational to this, which is, I know there's some people driving at home, they're nodding their head like, yes, I know what a flow state is. For those who don't, I'll just briefly explain it. A Hungarian-American psychologist, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, had a strong thesis. He's like, high performers seem to all describe these concentrated states they get into in very similar ways. There's something to it. I want to find out what it is. So like Prometheus, he want to go up, interview everyone on Mount Olympus, and then bring back fire for all of the rest of us. And what he came back is he said, I'm writing a book called Flow. It is the seminal book on this. It is why we call it a flow state. And in it, he unpacked how do they get into these states where they do the amazing things. He said across disciplines, the best athletes, the best inventors, the best artists. And he said, you'll recognize some of the components of this if you've ever been in the zone. Like Michael Jordan called it the zone. He said, when I'm in the zone, it's me and the ball. He said, the world falls away. Very much, what Michael was capturing that. He's like, there are no spectators. There's no scoreboard. Like when I'm in the NBA finals, it's me and the ball and I'm going to win. Right. And Picasso has that great quote I always mangle about, I forgot to eat or go to the bathroom last night, but I hate Guernica. Do you like it? What do you think? Good? And what is interesting is Mihai, in this foundational book, said, I'm going to call it flow. Because what I've found, the best metaphor is you can paddle and move yourself forward, but if you align yourself with the river, your efforts are magnified. And that's how these people do it. And what I aim for is the people who want to discover a flow state and go, oh, it's 3:00. I'm done. I feel great. I did really good work. We're here for you. And the people who at 6:00 want to say, oh man, where did the day go? It sucks. I'll get up early tomorrow and finish tomorrow. We can help you, but you gotta raise your hand and go, okay, I want to do this. So that's fundamentally what I believe, and that's why I do what I do. But it's from having the benefit of watched really talented people and then going, how do they do it? And this guy wrote about it.
I love it. And is it the same for physical activities as mental activities? Like you mentioned basketball and writing.
Yeah, sure. And creating and inventing. I'm lucky that some of my friends invented Bing, invented Siri, like a bunch of things. And it is really curious how you look at what Mihai wrote. And this is decades ago. As a matter of fact, he just died, I think, 2 years ago now. He was very right. He said, here's some of the things you'll notice, the hallmarks of this. When you want to get into the state, you have to believe you're doing something meaningful. He said, it's never, hey man, I'm stapling these TPS reports. You're not going to get into flow, right? It takes a little while to get into flow. Like if you do Zoom meetings every hour on the hour, the 14 minutes in between, you're not going to get into flow for 14 minutes. It takes 15 to 30 minutes to get in, to fall in. And then when you're in it, and it's amazing. He also said, you have to be doing something where you have skills that apply. So it's not Michael Jordan painting, for example. You have to be challenged. Use the Michael Jordan thing. It's not Michael playing against 8th graders. It is, I'm in the NBA finals and these guys are amazing, but I want to be the greatest, And there's a lot more to this. And I know this is a short pod, but the important thing I think to take away is when someone, because I know your audience, they're looking to do something with their lives, right? And they're interested, they're leaning in. That's why they're here as opposed to listening to Joe Rogan or, some other idiot. And when you have that moment of like, how do I optimize the number of minutes in the day, the number of units of brain energy I have, and do something? What am I capable of? Flow states are a really, really powerful tool. All I wanted to do is make them very available. So you open our website, you hit play, and behind that play button are a lot of the conditions precedent that you need to get there. But you can also practice on your own. You don't even need an app, So anyway, flow states, not just for
Love
breakfast anymore.
They're for all day long. So one of the things that you mentioned is there are things that he wrote about in the book that help you get there, and you are helping to stop things that prevent people from getting there.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the name of my company is a really weird name. The Sukha Company. People often ask me, like, what is that? And I'll tell you, I chose it. I was going on my honeymoon with Laura, my wife, whom I met in yoga, right? So we were going to Bali, which is a great place to go do yoga with your new wife, right? On the way there, I said, I would love if the next 10 days the universe speaks to me and gives me a name that's not descriptive, not like, hey, flow state app, or distraction blocker. Amazon, like Nike's not shoe store, you know what I mean? And I said on the first day, do you mind if I talk to a couple of our early members? We had a working title. And Laura's like, go for it. So I did like 2, 3, 10-minute Zooms. Hey, man, what's your favorite feature? Do you love all the flow music we designed? Because I have a lot of friends who are film composers for my film career, right? Hey, we have 1,000 hours of music composed to best practices. Do you love the timer? Do you love the smart assistant? Whatever. The third guy, when I was just wrapping up, like, oh, hey, Jeremy, thank you so much for your 10 minutes. I don't want to take more than that. Let's go. He said to me, Stephen, you asked the wrong questions. I said, okay, I'll take the bait. What was the right question I should have asked? He said, you should have asked me why I pay you. And I was like, it's free for a week and spend 30 cents a day. Like, okay. He said, I pay you because I found I have 2 kinds of days. I have days where at 3 o'clock, I am playing with my kids. They're 2 and 4 years old. And I have days where at 6 o'clock, I'm like, where the F did the day go? And he said, I realized the difference is, did I focus in the morning by running your website in the background? He said, so I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever. And I was like, wow, thank you. Thank you for that. So I told this to Laura at dinner, and I was like, this guy is more articulate at what I'm doing with my life than I am. And she's like, yeah, that's really good. And we went to bed that night. She's brushing her teeth. She said, remember you wanted the universe to talk to you? I was like, yeah. She goes, in yoga, we hear all these Sanskrit terms, prana and karma and dharma. And, she's like, he described you sukha. He wants the feeling of being in control, being in his lane and knowing he's good at what he's doing and being able to do it with ease. He's back in control of his life so he can be with his kids. She's like, that's what you should call your company. And I bought it that night, going to bed, pulled out my phone, went to, who is to see if anyone had it. And I was like, we're going to call it the Sukha Company, the Happiness Company. And that's really the fundamentals of it. There are brilliant people, James Clear, Cal Newport, Near, Mihai, that have written stuff that we use to build what we built. So you don't have to read all his books. But the foundation of it is like, if we can get you into a flow state and you look up, that's powerful. You got to dedicate an hour or two to it and then go, wow, I did like 2 or 4 hours worth of work in that time.
And from what that person said, it's not just about maximizing your day or a chunk of time. It's a way to maximize your life, because at 6 o'clock you can say, man, where did the hours go? But at the end of your life, you can be like, what did I do?
Jeremy, that is exactly it. It's so easy to be busy. It's so easy to just like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, da, da, da. And at the end of the day, have you moved your life? Have you moved the world forward? Have you done something where someone else in the world is like, wow, the world's better because of what you did today?
But it starts, it sounds like, and I agree with if this is what you said, it starts with knowing the direction that you want to go and having really stepped back and thought about, what is the point of my life?
And you said something in an earlier episode where you talked about traits, or things that are perceived as weaknesses, and how do you actually like reframe them or recast them and go, how do I build on that? And I'll tell you straight up about myself. I had a moment where I was like, I procrastinate, period. And when I looked deeply at that, I was like, why do I procrastinate? I'm often overwhelmed. I looked at how many things I have to do or the size of one thing I have to do that day, and it's overwhelming. I also, as you know, I'm medically diagnosed with ADD. So sometimes I look at a task list and my brain thinks it can jump around between all these things. And I don't know how much of this, you can relate to, or anyone at home can relate to, but these were things that were holding me back. And they led to more of those 6 p.m.s like, oh man, I got to go to dinner now, but I didn't finish. After dinner, I'll try and work some more. Kind of moments which they suck, and I'm going to have a child this year. I'd like to be in his life. I'd like him to remember me more than I remember, my dad, because he worked really hard for us, but he was gone a lot. And that's really the core of it, is saying like, okay, if I procrastinate, if I feel overwhelmed, if I know that I want to multitask and I have that sort of scattered attention, how do I build something that says, let's turn all that in a positive way? Like when I get overwhelmed, there's a little smart assistant that says, hey, you know what? As soon as you hit play, I'm going to hide everything on your task list, but the top 3 things. So let's just choose what are those 3 things, and that's your goal today. And suddenly it's way more doable. And it sounds stupid, but it's just like a little mental thing. We're just going like, oh, yeah, okay. And that focus, that sort of enforced focus, where it's like, I know there's 17 things in the back of my head, but I can see 3. Things like that help. And we can talk about some other mental tricks that are free, that don't even relate to the thing I built. I'm happy to talk about those.
One thing that I've recently done is I've always, every morning, done the tasks for the day. Like I plan out my day. Here are the things. Right. I prioritize high, medium, and low. I try to focus on the high. But then sometimes the next morning I look at it again. I'm like, yeah, I didn't really focus on the high level things. So what I've recently done, which also just sounds so dumb, but it works for me, is I got myself one of those Pomodoro timers that'll give me like a 25-minute section of focus. But I also look at the task list for the day, and the 3 highest priority ones, I write them on a cue card. And on my desk, I have 3 cue cards, and I put the timer on one of them. And when I'm done with it, I put that cue card away. And once I get through the cue cards, even if I don't get to the other 15 things, it's been a productive day.
I love that. That is like underline and highlight what you just said. That is awesome. And just to make sure everyone knows exactly what you're talking about, is there was an Italian guy who came up with a productivity sort of rhythm that we call the Pomodoro method, because he used a kitchen timer. It looked like a tomato, which is Pomodoro in Italian. And it is the foundation of how we have our company set up, is when you hit play, you're in a 25 and 5 cycle. So every 25 minutes, there's a bing, there's like a little yoga gong, and it says, hey, do you want to get up and stretch? Do you want to go get some water? What can you do? Because those little 5-minute refreshes, and then you hunker down your next thing, are really, really helpful. I love that you do it with the cue cards, because it's just so visual, like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. And I really thought in the beginning, well, it was true, it helps me to stay on the thing. So 15 minutes in, I will have the thought, I wonder if someone texted me. And I'm like, nope, I've only got 10 minutes left. I can do this. But the unexpected benefit was that it was easier to start things, because I know I only have to do it for 25 minutes. If something feels overwhelming, then I would put it off. If I'm like, well, I'll do this for 25 minutes and see what we do, and then I can quit. It's easier to start.
I love that. So I have a question for you. While you're working, how often does your phone pull you out of focus?
I turn off all notifications from my phone. It doesn't vibrate or light up or anything.
Do you ever pick it up?
So if I am not careful, then I will.
Okay.
But
so
that's one thing that the timer helps me with.
I'm so with you on that. And I'll tell you something. What I noticed when I really started looking at my patterns is I can have my phone there face down so it doesn't vibrate, whatever, and be pretty good. But when I encountered something, like if I was coding and I hit some sort of roadblock or something that was difficult, it was almost like muscle memory to be like, well, I'll just pick up my phone for a moment and kind of like scroll and think about it, blah, blah. And that scroll is never a minute. It's usually not 5 minutes. Usually you get lost, you watch a YouTube video and you do a thing and you're in some reel and thing. And I realized how well I had been trained. As much as I can rail against like, hey, my friends work at Twitter, at Instagram. Like I get the behavioral tricks that they use. I am super susceptible. And we did the stupidest thing. When you start your session, when you hit play, a little QR code pops up on your screen. You can shoot with your phone, and when you put your phone down, you work. And if I pick up my phone during a session, my smart assistant talks to me through my computer and says, Steven, do you really need to be on your phone right now? And it's just that little instant of, what's my intention? Is my intention to be done at 3, or is it my intention to just watch a bunch of YouTube videos? And sometimes I make the wrong decision, but a lot of the time, it's just that little reminder I need of being like, no, man, it's going to feel really great at 3 if you finish, and I put it down.
I love that. And, it's not even a person. It's an AI thing saying, hey.
It's super simple. I know. Do you ever get, are there websites that distract you when you're working? Are you like a CNN guy or like an ESPN guy or like open a...
Not particularly. Like
Okay,
I will go on.
way.
CNBC is about the only thing that I'll go on. Other than that, I don't really watch news.
Okay, can I tell you something interesting? So,
Yeah.
We have a big cohort of engineers that uses this to code, right? And it just runs in the background, plays beautiful music, stuff like that, right? So when we launched the feature, it's a free Chrome extension. You can run it, and then if you open a website that's on your distraction list, like you can customize it. We give you probably like 25 suggestions like Facebook or whatever, but you can add stuff to it. And if you go on there, a little pop-up comes on your screen saying, hey man, is this pulling you out of focus? And you can say, yes, I'm going to close it, or no, I need to be here, right? Can I tell you, it's been so interesting seeing where we guessed correctly and where we guessed wrong. For example, I was joking about Facebook a moment ago, right? Where Tony and I were like, okay, clearly one of the first toggles, to watch as a distracting website should be Facebook. It's like maybe number 5 on the list, right?
Oh.
Most people don't use it anymore. It's not a thing. People talk a lot about, I'm fine. But man, YouTube, huge. The number of people are like, I can't go down that rabbit hole because it takes an hour of watching video and then they give me another great video, and I'm not done. And I was like, that's interesting seeing how things shift. Also the doom scrolling, like the reason I asked you about CNN. A year or two ago, the news sites were incredibly high in terms of people going, this is what distracts me, man. Just keep me off MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, whatever it is your flavor of news is. But I just go over there to doom scroll. And these days, that hasn't been so much as some sports. There have been a bunch of people who have started toggling on ESPN or other like sports things. And it's just as an anecdote, it's been really interesting seeing the patterns of people saying, oh, what's really pulling me away from doing my work is this kind of thing right now.
I imagine that for different people, it shifts with the sports season. Like once the NFL starts, I bet a lot of people fall into that.
I'm sure you're correct about that. I don't watch that many sports, so for me, it's kind of abstract idea. But like the YouTube for me is real. Like I'll watch one video and like I look up 5 videos gone by. I'm like, each one is fascinating. They know me so well what I love to watch.
Yeah, it's crazy how much they know about you.
Yeah.
One thing that's not really related, but along the lines of an AI person saying, hey, are you sure you want to do this? They did a study of offices that have coffee, and you're supposed to make a donation every time you take a cup of coffee.
Right.
And the study showed like 30% of the time people actually put the money in that they're supposed to. And
Sure.
And then they just put a drawing of a face behind the coffee pot. And people know that it's not really someone watching you, but just the reminder of like, hey, someone could be watching you. It jumped to like 75% of the people paid money for the coffee that they're supposed to.
So interesting. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. When Tony and I were designing our smart assistant, we thought, we're a tiny company. The two of us do this for free, by the way. Neither of us collects a paycheck. We just think it's a cool thing to do, right? We were talking about, with just the two of us, we have to be kind of simple. There's not that many, hours in the day. Let's have two smart assistants. Let's have a male and a female voice, right? Not like you go into 11 labs and like 1,000 voices you can use. You know what I mean? Let's be moderate. So the male voice that I chose has a little bit of a British accent.
Okay.
And I chose that because I noticed that, Americans always think that British people or British accents sound a little bit smarter, a little bit more like they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you imagine a smart assistant talking to you, what kind of accent do you think and is it male or female, by the way?
So this is just my personal preference. I will choose women for almost all services that I can, like
Interesting.
doctors, whatever. I find them easier to, and it's not difficult to deal with men. I just find it a little bit easier to deal with women.
Yeah,
so
a friend of ours created Siri, and there's a reason why Siri was a female voice, and Alexa, and like a lot of these default assistants are female. And maybe I should make our default assistant the female voice we call Alex. Interesting. I have to think. I'll talk about it with Tony after this recording.
All right. In terms of accent, I would like it to be a very slight one, like a
Slight
very
what?
slight. I can imagine a very slight Indian accent might be good.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. So female with a slight Indian accent.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to experiment with that tonight as we play with some of the sliders and things. That's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I want to hear what you come up with.
Yeah. And if anyone listening wants to vote, I mean, email me or drop in the group chat, because we actually in the group chat is where we get most of the feature ideas. Is people going, I would love an integration with Todoist. And we're like, okay, we'll write one for you.
Well, since we're on that topic, why don't you tell everybody where they can reach out to you and or where they could join in the vote?
That is very generous of you. There are two things, anyone listening at this point who's interested into this, there are two things you should know. One, if I've mentioned anything, flow states, blah, blah, Cal Newport, and you want to know more, you can email me. It doesn't have to be about my company. My email address is Stephen with a V at thesukha, which is TheSukha.co. I am happy to answer any questions. I'll send you a blog post to read or a reference to the book or something like that. I do get back to all of my emails in 24 hours unless I'm sick or traveling. It will not be a long email. I will not write you the history of my life, but it will be, hey, dude, you want to know about Cal? Here's a great post that'll be a good entree to his work. Because anything I say that's smart is basically because someone really smart wrote about this, and I'm trying to bring it to everyone.
That's genius on its own, just knowing where to find the right stuff.
Yeah, just it's there. I mean, people email me all the time, so it's really nice to go like, oh man, you heard that? Cool. Here's something to read. The other thing is, if you do want to have a website to run in the background while you work that gives you beautiful music and blocks your distractions and all that, we built this that there's no credit card for a 7-day trial. You can try it for free. There's no funny business about, oh, if you don't cancel, we'll bill you. We're like, no, you know what? If after 7 days you love it, great, sign up to pay. And if you try it for 7 days, it's not your jam, you just walk away. And it's at thesukha, TheSukha.co for company. And if you do try it, drop in the group chat and say, hey man, I heard you on Jeremy's pod and, trying it out. And it's a fun community. It's really nice people,
Nice. And I will put links in the show notes, and
Thanks.
I'll put a poll in there as well, so people can
I would
can
love
go
to
up there,
see
and
what people say. That would be cool.
I'll let you know. Sadly, we need to start wrapping up in the interest of time.
Understood.
So, can you share with everybody one piece of communication advice that you have benefited from, and you think everyone else can as well?
Oh yeah, I was actually excited about this because in listening to your pod, there are some things I think you do really well. So I would say this. My undergraduate degree is in journalism. And one of the greatest things I learned from that was that sense of think before you speak, tell people what you're going to say it, and then remind them what you said. And it's really that structured thought. And as Blaise Pascal wrote, he wrote, and I'm paraphrasing, I would have written a shorter letter if I had more time. It does take more time to be concise, to really think through what you're going to say. So that is my thought for you, is just say like, hey man, I want to tell you how to write a shorter letter. This is how to do it. By the way, that's how to write a shorter letter. It's really nice.
I love that. And I love that saying. And I also love how many people it's been attributed to. Blaise Pascal seems to be the first one.
I'm
but
sure
I
a lot of
think
smart people have said it.
a million people have been credited with it, so that's great.
Yes.
I know that this has been a great interview because there were 5 questions I had in my mind ahead of time, and we never even got to them because everything else was so
We could have talked much more, or we could do another episode,
So,
whatever you'd like. Yeah, but it's super
I
fun.
think we're going to have to do another episode.
I would be
So.
honored to come back.
Perfect. All right. Well, then let's end it with that. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was great.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Neuroconversant Leadership. We're over 100 episodes now. And as mentioned, I'm going to be making some changes. So I would love your feedback on what changes I should make, what things I should add, what things I should take away. Please do me a favor and reach out either on LinkedIn or on my email address, which is jdoran@neuroconversantleadership.com. I look forward to hearing your suggestions. Thanks a lot. Until next time, have a great week.